Time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the intricacies of life in France with France 24's very own Florence Villeminot. Florence, this week we're talking about a focus on a French institution. It rolls around once a year. It's the Tour de France. It's much more than a cycling competition, isn't it?
Indeed, because it's actually the biggest free sporting spectacle in the world. And traditionally, the Grande Boucle, as it's called, the big loop, essentially is held during the month of July. And like other of the Grand Tours, so you have the Giro d'Italia and the Vuelta in Spain, it consists of 21 stages over a little bit more than 3 weeks. And it was first organized in 1903. It's been around for a really long time. It covers about 3,500 kilometers all over France and occasionally makes passes in nearby countries like Germany, Belgium, or the UK even. Now, the route changes every year, but the format is basically the same. There are stages in the mountains, so the Pyrenees and the Alps. They're really, really tough. And then there's the finish on the Champs-Élysées. Cyclists from all over the world participate in the race. It's considered one of the hardest and one of the most prestigious in the world.
Definitely looks very grueling, this challenge. Tell us more about the specifics, though, of the Tour, and both the individual and the team race aspects.
Indeed, there is both an individual winner and a team winner. Both are determined by the overall time, and the overall leader of the race, the rider essentially with the lowest cumulative time, gets to wear the signature maillot jaune, the yellow jersey. You can see it there. And there are other colored jerseys as well. You have the green jersey, that's the maillot vert. It's the sprinter's jersey, the white jersey, that's the jersey worn by the fastest overall rider under the age of 25. And then you have this one, the maillot à pois rouge, the white, the red, the polka dots on the white jersey. It essentially is for the king of the mountain, the best climber. Now, riders spend most of their time in something called a peloton. It's actually our word du jour. It's a word that comes up a lot when you talk about cycling. It quite literally means a little ball or a platoon, and it's essentially the main pack of riders. And the peloton actually cuts wind drag by about 40%. So that's why riders like to stay in there, but it can also lead to some spectacular crashes.
Right, well, Flo, the spectacle of the Tour de France is appealing around the world. It's the third largest sporting event in the world after the FIFA World Cup and, of course, the Olympics.
And Tour de France fever certainly is global. I actually have an American friend who lives in Japan who stays up late to watch the Tour de France. And what he loves about it, on top of the sporting drama, is the fact that so many people come out to cheer the riders all the way along the race. So these are tens of thousands of people who travel across France and wait for hours to see the peloton zip by. I certainly did this as a kid. And it takes something very special to draw that level of attention and passion.
It's important to show our kids the Tour de France. It's a French institution.
The Tour de France is legendary. These are top athletes.
My two daughters love cycling. It's an opportunity to see champions up close.
It's cool. We give them high fives. We'll never wash our hands again.
I love watching the fans as well. What worries me, though, is how close some of them get to the actual...
It can be dangerous.
Can be dangerous. But part of the reason, Flo, that the race is so popular is because the whole atmosphere is electric. The Tour is like a travelling circus almost, going from town to town in France.
It's a major operation. In fact, the technical team alone counts more than 50 trucks. So it's a big deal. And then there is also the publicity caravan, that's what it's called, which precedes the race. And it's a real show. So you have the sponsors of the race that zip by in essentially decked out vans. They get really creative about this, and they shower the fans with promotional gifts. This was definitely my favorite part of the race when I was a kid. Definitely worth the long wait, but some people are more or less lucky with the gifts they get.
I got 6 caps, 2 hats, and 3 bags of candy.
They ran out of saucisson right when they got to me.
The technique is to scream and get on your knees.
Some great stuff given out there then. Flo, the appeal of the Tour de France has been tainted somewhat, though, in recent years, and that's because of repeated doping scandals.
That's right. The love story between France and the Tour de France went through kind of a rough patch, I guess you could say, because of these doping scandals. It started with the Festina scandal in 1998, and then more recently during the Armstrong years. In fact, Lance Armstrong went so far as to tell Le Monde, the newspaper, that it was impossible to win the Tour de France without doping. Now, these days, things have changed. Cycling is one of the most tested sports, and particularly the Tour de France. Over the 3-week period, cyclists are controlled over 600 times. In fact, just after the finish line, 8 cyclists are tested and under very, very tight surveillance.
We have to put mirrors in the test areas to have 360-degree surveillance. It's like cops and robbers. But we're getting better at catching cheaters.
We're stuck with a bad reputation we're trying to get rid of. But I can understand the skeptics. It's hard to know who can be trusted.
With the different cyclists being disqualified, that's disappointing. But I still think it's a great sport, and I think it'll get turned around, once they get past all this.
Well, Flo, cycling fans really hope that doping will soon become a bump in the road, a thing of the past. In the meantime, the Tour continues to be cherished by many.
Indeed, because for me, for instance, the Tour de France really rhymes with lazy summer afternoons and childhood. And in fact, the French philosopher Roland Barthes said the Tour de France is an epic saga, and it certainly is a national celebration, and especially a celebration of France. In fact, towns fight really hard and they pay a lot of money to actually be a stop along the Tour de France because it's a boost for local tourism. And in fact, the way it's filmed is really incredible. Cameras are on helicopters and motorcycles to showcase the best sides of France and the diversity of France. In fact, many people say that the Tour is kind of a metaphor for national unity, and it certainly is a national treasure.
That's a great feeling when it does come through your town eventually. All right, Flo, thank you very much. That's all we have time for. If you do have any questions about France you'd like us to explore in French Connections, tweet Flo at Flo Villeneuve, and you can also check out our website at france24.com.